And now, after years of planning, sweating, and going broke, here is the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
And it left the media.
Why they would give this man a podcast is anyone's guess.
Then there is what could only be a bizarre coincidence or something else.
Welcome to the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Country music and fine moonshine. Finally, a podcast that lets it all hang out.
Let's level with America.
Got your boots? Ready for some whiskey?
These boots are made for walking.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.
And now, the Boots and Whiskey Podcast with Jim Belisle.
Hey everyone, Jim here, Boots and Whiskey Podcast. Today we have Chase Wright on the show. I never thought in all of my time doing this I would have a name like Chase Wright. For those of you that don't know, Chase has had some great hits with some of his own tunes, and he's just one of those guys where, like, you know, we never know, right? I infamously say this all the time. I never know what I'm getting going into a conversation. And, you know, when you're dealing with levels of stardom, success, whatever in this industry, like you do never know what you're going to get, right? And like that's just the nature of the beast, and that's how we kind of approach this. But this conversation you're about to see with Chase was one of those conversations that I will cherish for the rest of my life, because it was so open and honest and enthusiastic, and like for somebody who has had success in this industry to have the conversation we did was both, I mean, for me, it wasn't surprising at all, but also very informative, very, you know, honest and truthful, and just it was just everything this podcast is supposed to be. So Chase, thank you so much for just being you. And you can tell a lot by people just by conversing with them. And the Chase Wright you may know, may not know, may think about, may not think about, whatever, like this is the version who he is in this conversation. So thank you so much, Chase, for taking the time and being out with us. If you've never been here before, you're in for a treat. I'm telling you that right now. And the way you see this conversation go is how we conduct all of them. But if it's not your first time here, you know that. And thank you for being back. So here it is, Chase Wright. Enjoy.
Perfect, dude. I'm in.
You know, we've obviously know who you are. Decent sized name, I would say, in this industry, right?
Cool.
So thank you for being here. And
oh my gosh, yeah, definitely.
You know, this is about you, man. We're gonna talk about music a little bit, but this is more for the people and your fans and our fans to get to know who you are, right? As a person, rather than a name in lights, more or less.
Perfect, dude.
Right? So
I'm in.
You know, I know everybody, I'm sure by now, knows quite a bit about you, but for those that don't, like, where do you start? How do you start this whole journey that you're on?
Yeah, I actually started pretty late compared to most, I feel like. I actually started playing guitar my freshman year of college. So my dad actually surprised me with like a $20 garage sale guitar. I had told him that I, wanted to learn guitar in passing or whatever, but I had never really done it. Since I was younger, I've always been a fan of, music, and like I got little kid guitars when I was younger, but never learned. I never took lessons or whatever.
Sure,
and so,
yeah.
Yeah, and so I was listening to an interview with Sam Hunt, and he talked about how he learned to play guitar his freshman year of college. And so that's kind of what motivated me. I was like, wow, if he could do it and he's at the top of his game, then why couldn't I do it? And so I mentioned that to my dad, and he just surprised me with a $20 garage sale guitar, and I started learning on YouTube, taught myself everything, and then and then after that, just started posting a couple videos as I got more confident with it. And then one of my buddies actually, he played guitar really well, and he was like, dude, if we go play at this bar down the road, like we can make a couple $100. And I was like, well, I've never played in public. I've never sang in public. Like, I don't know if that's something I'm into or whatever. He just like signed us up. He just surprised, like signed us up, and was just like, and he came in one day. He's like, yeah, bro, we got a show in 3 weeks. So we got to learn like 3 hours worth of like music, And so we practiced every day for like 30, 40 minutes. And Ended up doing that, and he like graduated, moved on, and I had to do it on my own, and that's sort of what got me into playing in public. And then, I was working this finance like desk job my junior year of college, so I'd been playing out at bars for like maybe a year and a half, and I was working this like desk job, and I just hated it. I really did
Yeah.
hate it, and I was like, I just started this music thing, and I'm kind of liking it, and so um, maybe I'll just try to see if I can make something of this in my last year and a half of college. And so that's kind of how it all sort of started going, where I was diving into it as like maybe this could be a job. Like even if I could just make like half of what I'm making at the desk job to do it, I'm
Right.
in. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, so we just ended up or I just ended up posting a bunch of videos and stuff, and my first manager found me via that and invited me to Nashville for a writer's workshop at ASCAP, and I met some people there, started networking, and just sort of one thing led to another. And then, yeah, that's kind of what brought me to town, and then ended up getting a publishing deal from that manager, and just came to town to write and whatever, just didn't have to get a side gig. And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of what got things going. And then also is the like signal good? Sorry, I'm like
Yeah.
in like a
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. What happens with this app all the time is it looks grainy, and then when I go to put it out, it's perfectly fine. I think it's just the way it works.
Okay, because I just didn't want it to. Sorry, I just didn't want to be. I'm like in a parking lot. I actually just got back from LA yesterday, and so I've
Nice.
got like a million things to do today, and I was just like
Oh
running
yeah,
around. But so I'm in a like parking lot at a Publix currently. So I just want to make sure that we're all good to go.
dude. I've had people in worse places do
Yeah,
do these
no,
do these things.
no. So I did. Yeah, good. I just want to make sure that we're all good to go. But yeah, that's kind of the long and like short of how everything started getting, or how everything started, to happen. And dude, it's crazy. I've been in town now since 2019, so 7 years. But it feels like, I just graduated college, yesterday. But
Right, right.
it's been 7 years now, and so yeah, it's crazy, man.
Before you pick up the guitar, right, and make a comment about wanting to do it, did you know you could sing before that? Was there any inclination that you had a talent?
I mean, like I had like, I sing in the car or sing in the shower or
Right.
whatever. It was never like wow, I'm talented. Because that's like the thing is I've never been like the best at anything. I've just worked really hard at whatever I end up doing, And so it's like if it's, track, when I was running track in like college, I was never like the fastest guy, but I was fast, and I may have been the fastest because I worked so hard. And that's kind of how it is with like singing too. I have like recordings of, when I was younger, like on my phone. But I'm like at this weird age where like nobody had enough like storage on their phones back when I was younger to like keep a lot of video. But I do have a couple like videos of me like when I was like driving my car at 16 thinking I could sing and just recording just to see how I sound. It is terrible. It is so bad. It is so bad. So I don't really know. It's like so crazy because I've like thought about that before. Like what made me think I could do it? It's
Right.
really just like a blind confidence,
And like, we've talked. It's funny, you and I are talking about this now because I talked to somebody yesterday. You may or may not know him, but his name's Kelsey Hart, right? And
Yeah.
he kind of came to town, same kind of thing, right? Had a pub deal and then started playing live, right? For you, when you come to town and start doing what you're doing, like, you said you've been here since, well, in Nashville since 2019, right? Which isn't a long time, right? But you know, I I could bet, regardless of what my quote unquote main audience would normally be, right? If I say Chase Wright, like people know who you are. Like, how do you go from pretty much nobody to somebody that, especially in this industry, a name that's recognizable just without even maybe hearing a song?
Yeah, no, that's like really like kind. Feel like, the like music industry is very up and down, and there are so many days where I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why do I even do this? Like, who
Right.
does anybody even care that the songs I put out, right? So no, that's like super, super kind. Thank you. But yeah, I think I was really on the forefront of like really utilizing social media and recognizing that as a tool, and like when I was
Yeah.
in like college, I was like, okay, so TikTok wasn't a thing yet. TikTok didn't become like a thing until I had moved to Nashville. And thankfully, because I was in my like old management office and I was like, hey, like I saw one of my buddies got this app and like he kind of got a lot of followers like really quick. Like, what are your thoughts? And like they're like, yeah, no, I've heard of that. Like you should totally get it if it takes off. Like it'd be nice to get on the front end of it. And
Right.
so I like legitimately think I was one of the first like artists in town to start utilizing TikTok, and I really took Instagram seriously, because I was like, wow, this is my free way to reach like so many people.
Yeah.
And so I think that was just one of my like kind of superpowers early on is like easily connecting with fans because other artists were like, I don't want to do that crap. I just want to write songs. And I'm like, well, this is my only way to like connect with people because I wasn't playing shows. I didn't like go on my first tour until 2023. So I'd already been in town for 4 years before I really started playing shows. So my only
Yeah.
way to really deepen that connection with fans was through like social media. And so I feel like that might have been, I would venture to say that's probably 85% of, people that have heard my like music or heard of me saw a video on social media and
Sure.
then sort of deepened from there. And so I would kind of attribute it to that, because I've just always I just wear so many hats, as a like a independent artist. You have to wear so many hats, and that's just one of them. And I kind of love the content creation side of things, and I feel like I've gotten so maybe every video doesn't like hit because of whatever limitations that I have, if it's lighting, time of day, setting, or whatever. But when I get one, I'm like, oh, I know this one's gonna do. It may not go millions of views, but I know it's gonna do better than others just because I've just done so many of them. I kind of know
Yeah.
what's going to work and what like doesn't. And so I would venture to say probably that. And I would, just, and I like bet fans would say like, oh yeah, I saw a video first and then looked him up and then liked this, and this, and this, and then whatever.
Yeah. So, so back in 23, what was that call where it was like, hey, you're going to go on tour, or you're going to do, this is what's next. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, well, I think it was just sort of the next logical step, like I didn't really want to it's just tough to get out there and tour, right? Because you will lose a lot of money. And so I'm just very much a business owner first, and so which is also like kind of a superpower that I have as an artist is like I'm such a business owner, and if I wasn't singing, I'd be running some other business. And so but like so I put out my first song in 2020 during COVID, August of 2020. My second song in October of 2020 went like viral on TikTok. Like it was one of those like first viral moments on TikTok, and it got put on like they even created like a viral TikTok playlist and like put my song, on it because it was one of those things like they're like, what's going on? And so that's kind of what got me going, like jump started things. And so but I already had a full record out before I went on my first like real like big tour, like 70 shows. And it was that first single off the second project, Hurt No More, that ended up getting picked up by SiriusXM The Highway, and it got picked up by Spotify's Hot Country and all the big Pandora playlists and Apple. It was on every big playlist. It was on XM radio. Um, and so a lot of people were finding my music very, very fast. And we just sort of piggybacked off that and was like, well, if we're going to go build a hard ticket, like this is the time to do it. And
Yeah.
so I just rode that wave, and the like XM really, really helped a ton. And that was one of the biggest like movers, I think, in my entire career is that like XM, relationship and them supporting me, early on. And so yeah, just rode that like wave and toured from March to November in 2023. And I was really kind of like I was like, hey, if I could sell 50 tickets a show, like that would to me would be like a win, because I've never been to any of these places. I haven't even heard of half these like places. But if I can go to wherever, like I'm just naming a random spot just because I thought of it, like Leesburg, Virginia. I've never even heard of that place. But if I go there and sell 50 tickets, I'm gonna feel good. And we show up to Leesburg and sell 250, almost 300, tickets in a whatever 600 cap room. It feels full enough to really feel the energy, and it's like,
Yeah.
holy crap, like, and that was kind of the same. That was kind of how it like was across the board was like, we would go to these places and I was selling like, it's like funny. side note, you see like sort of throughout the year, like what concert goer tendencies are, like, oh, in spring, summer, they're popping. In the fall, it's like, kind of fall off a little, whatever. But it's like funny because we like get out on the road in March. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going to all these markets. We're doing 150, 200, 250. I go to Michigan, sell 400 tickets. I'm like, holy crap. Like, this is
Yeah.
insane. Just piggybacking off of that, like, XM hype, and that's that hot country hype and all that stuff. And so I kind of got a unrealistic expectation of what shows were going to be like because then you go out subsequent years following that and you don't have that like hype that you're riding. It's a little bit harder to move tickets, but still though, like that's kind of what things were, and it was like really nice to like see.
And I like that you said that because it's like, and I think it's really, it relevant to the way things are right now, where whether it's you, whether it's somebody else, right? Like if you don't have something going on and you do like a big tour like that, you do see a drop off from people, right? And it's crazy how, I don't want to say a flash in the pan because I don't think that's what it is, but how our attention spans as consumers are. Like, and like you see it, and we're seeing it now with that, that blue dot thing that's going on, right? Where,
Yeah,
like even somebody like Post Malone and Jelly Roll not being able to sell out stadiums like they probably should be,
yeah,
like I can only imagine what it's like for guys and girls where you are going, shit, if they can't do it, how am I supposed to be able to do it? Like, do you have that thought and feel like in today's market trying to go out on tour?
yeah. No, I just think that it's really tough as an artist, and I don't want to seem like kind of contradictory or whatever when I say this, but like it's really tough as an artist to not have any ego, and
Oh, absolutely.
I try to really like humble myself because it's just no benefit to anybody to go in there with a huge head and whatever. So, but I think you kind of have to manage expectations a bit,
Yeah.
and it is really tough, if you're a Post Malone or a Jelly Roll, and that like you have a certain production value to your show. If people go to a show to see you and they've seen you in the past where maybe you were the top artist in the like platform, you have a production value that you have to sort of uphold, and going backwards is only gonna be like, oh, the last show was so much better, right? And so it's really a tough situation for a lot of artists that maybe were on arena tours that now have to go to theaters or whatever, because you can't like scale down the production too much or else fans are going to be like, what am I paying for? Because the last show was killer and this show's. So it is a really difficult situation. But I went out on the road this past fall and did like 2 months or whatever, 2.5 months of like a fall tour, and I just really managed like expectations, like
Yeah.
the fall is already harder to sell tickets than the spring and summer is. Like, just there's so much more stuff going on in the fall. It's colder, maybe people aren't really in that country music vibe, whatever the situation is. There's so many different whatever consumer preference things going on in the fall that aren't present in like the spring summer. It's getting warm, everybody's listening to country and they're all fired up, and so you already kind of got to manage your expectations in the like fall. But also I know that like, hey, I don't have that hype going into the fall tour like I had before, and this and that, and like, and so, but like how I look at it is like, okay, I'm not going to sell out these shows, I know that, okay. Can I sell as many tickets as possible? Can I do what I can on the digital marketing side to try to move tickets? Of course. But the value to me at this point is like, one, connecting with fans and creating those like super fans that are going to go out there and buy every single vinyl record that I put out, all the hats, all the t-shirts, right? That's one goal, right? The second goal is I'm going to get as much social media content as humanly possible, and I'm going to use these videos from these shows for the next 18 months,
Yeah.
because I've learned that live performance, like, I like put the master on top of it, but those like videos of me singing live with a microphone do so much better than me just like sitting in my car doing this, what I'm doing now, right? It's so much more compelling to watch somebody with a microphone on stage. So in my brain, when I went out on tour this past fall, my goal was like, I want to break even. All right. I want to
Sure.
try to not lose money, which is tough on the touring front. You can ask any
Yeah.
artist at any like level. The only person probably making money is Morgan Wallen, and he's making it off of t-shirts, not from the
Right.
ticket sales, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
And so, but like my goal was to break even and to get so much video content to be able to utilize for the next year and a half. And that's where the value was for me, was like the deepening the connection with those, 150 fans that are going to come out to the show and be super passionate. And so, and then just get like video. I consider that a win, but I think it's tough when artists, grow and they're growing so fast, like a Jelly Roll situation. And then, and then you've got, you haven't put out a record in a while and people are fans of you, but they're, you're not in the news every day like you were before. So you have this huge show that you've built, and then now you're trying to sell tickets, and it's really tough to sell tickets in today's market, just period. But then, there's really not that like driving force similar to what I had in 2023 that are going to make people go, oh yeah, right. And
Right.
like, or, I just think about like, I'm like such a business guy, like I mentioned, and I'm thinking like, oh, why did tickets move so much then? And they're harder to move now. And there's a number of reasons, but I think even as small, like as on like my level, whenever my song would play on Sirius XM, right, the DJ would be like, oh, here's Hurt No More by Chase Wright. And I just saw like he's playing shows that it's like whole like summer. And if you wanted to see him, like now's your chance. Just little things like that like when you have something going on, like just little like tidbits, talking points here and there really help too,
Yeah.
get people just to like
Absolutely.
think about you and what you're doing.
Now, I wanted to ask because you brought it up, right? And being on the business side, because I love, we don't talk enough about the business side of this business, right? On
Yeah.
this podcast at all. It's always like a lot of it's the fluff and all the, the bullshit that goes on with it, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, right? You see all the time where people go to shows and they have their cell phones in their hand and they're taking videos, and sometimes you don't know where those videos are ever going to go, right? Are they ever going to be looked at again? But when those are posted to social media or whatever, does that, like, as an artist, can you grab onto that and like really kind of like gauge and use those sorts of things to your advantage?
Yeah, it's like so bad, like in today's world, like people are paying for those services, I'm trying to
Right.
do those things sort of free. And I was actually talking to my like content guy about this recently, and like about how can we there, because there are like platforms now that like if you put at the merch table, hey, scan this QR code and upload any videos that you have
Yeah.
from today's show, and then we would then go on our end post those as a fan on like a fan account or something. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole business to this. And like artists are paying for fan accounts. They're paying for these people to natively post about them. And it's like these are all marketing services that like people are using now. And so it's like you got to hop on the like train, or else somebody's going to steamroll you over, And so those are so valuable. And it's funny because where it like used to be like we're going to spend $250,000 on a music video and it's going to be the best music video ever and it's going to play on CMT every Saturday. Like now it's like, how can we try to get like these really grainy iPhone videos uploaded to TikTok in a meaningful fashion so people can natively see, you perform. Like they would natively see me perform without me shoving it down their throat, and
Yeah.
they'd be like, "Oh, who is this guy?" But if I post it, then I'm trying to sell.
Right. Right.
And
You
so
know,
there's such a game to it now.
It is. And it's funny because like we've done that, right? On our TikTok and stuff where it's like we'll post like we got invited to the first night of the Treaty Oak Revival tour because it was here. And I was in the pit in the barricade doing pictures, doing the whole 9 yards, and I just took a video of the crowd singing like one of the songs they were going to come out to. Not even them. And
Yeah.
excuse my language, but the fucking thing blew up. It was like, what is going on? It's just, it's amazing, and then there's times where I'll post other things and it goes nowhere, right? And you see that. And it's just crazy what people want to see and what they, I don't want to say don't want to see, but don't care to see as much as other things.
And then what like happens is, somebody from a label on the marketing team will see that video that you posted and be like, "Hey, would you want to come out to a whatever show? Would you want to come out to a Chase Wright show and maybe post a couple videos similar style, and we'll toss you a couple bucks and we'll get you free tickets and stuff." And then you would be like, "Yeah, I like going to concerts. Sure, I'm getting paid to go to a concert. That's incredible."
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's how marketing now in this world is. Everything seems so organic and not whatever. 90% of the time it's it's fabricated, beyond
Yeah.
belief. But that's just
Yeah.
what you gotta that's what you gotta do in a like world that everybody's trying to sell you something. You kind of gotta like circumvent that and just like make it look as natural as possible.
Right. Right. Now, with all that being said, and for what you're doing, you know, where do you go, or where's your plan to go, like from here, and managing everything that is what this world is now, and like the kind of guy you are, and trying to be so, relevant without, shoving it down people's throats. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's a like ever evolving thing. I'm like trying to get into that world of like how, because my entire career so far has been, how can I imitate a major label act as far as the quality of song, content, video, whatever, how can I imitate that huge budget act with no budget? Yeah, I'm trying to be as
Right.
efficient as efficient as possible, because a lot of these people, they're spending label money. They don't really care, it's like kind of like monopoly money until they got to pay it back. Right. And so that's kind of been my entire career. And it's like, so this is just kind of one of those things. And so I'm sort of in that sort of development stage of like, okay, I'm going to hire somebody to help me with this sort of stuff, but it's like, how do we do it to make it the most efficient it possibly can? And so I'm trying to figure that out. And we're going out on the road this summer, opening for Drew Baldridge, and I'm gonna try a bunch of things when I'm out there. I'm gonna try that, like, hey fans, upload your video that you took to this app, and get a whatever. You could get a free koozie or so, I don't know, something random,
Right.
right? Just to just sort of motivate them, and then utilize that content in like a organic way on a fan page,
Right.
and maybe my like content guy that's out on the road with me is running the fan page, or I don't know, right? Like there's so many different ways to go about it, but I mean that's just the nature of it. And it's like but because I'm in the business, I can scroll through TikTok and see these different pages and be like, oh, is that is just your label, like
Right.
it's so, but that's what like works, and that's what people want to see. They don't want to be sold, and so
Right.
it's just in an ever evolving market, you've got to adapt or you're going to get steamrolled. And so
Yeah.
that's just what I've tried to do with everything, is just like adapt as much as I can, or just look at what like works for other people. I look at somebody that I look up to in the social media space a lot is Alex Warren, the pop singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Alex Warren was a content creator first and a singer second. And but he has, 6 or 7 different TikTok pages. They're all slightly different, they all kind of have a different theme or, content style that gets tossed on there. And he posts, on all these different platforms or all these different accounts, like different things. If it's like there's one that's like just like behind the scenes stuff, and then there's one that's like super polished content, and there's one that's just like raw audio, whatever. It's like, it's just, they all kind of have a theme, but he sort of uses them to like cross promote the others. And so it's just this
Yeah.
web of like, his reach is ridiculous because he utilizes all these different accounts in such a cool way. And so it's like, how can I do that at my level without a huge team to manage all that stuff? And so it's just an ever evolving space, and I'm trying to adapt. And so long and short, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm in like the throes of it now. I haven't quite polished it up yet, but I feel like by the end of the year, right as things change again, I'll have it dialed in.
Right. And I I love that you mentioned all this and we talk about this, because I was just talking to somebody yesterday about how, and maybe you can relate to this, where this space has really become artists are now content creators. They care about social media, the whole nine yards, and it feels like the music has taken a backseat. Yeah, do you
Yeah.
feel that?
Yeah, well, yes and no, right? It's like I do feel like, like when I first moved to town, the big management company that I was at, one of the bigger, the manager, he's managed Kenny Chesney for, since the 90s, and manages some other large acts and stuff. But he was telling me when I first moved to town, he's like, "Hey, dude, like singing and writing is like 40% of it. And then
Right.
60% of it is playing the game. Like whatever the game is, the game, the rules of the game. Now let's play the game, and it isn't as easy as sing really, really well and write good songs.
Right.
You have to know somebody. You got to do what I was just talking about with the social media stuff. You got to play like the game. The artists, and I am not the most talented singer in Nashville. There are so many more talented just strictly on a singing level. But unfortunately, that doesn't really matter,
It
which is
doesn't.
so upsetting, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. So, yeah, and I even think nowadays more than ever, it's probably 70-30, 70% play the game and 30% write good music. But at the end of the day, if a song is really, really that good, the content doesn't matter. You
And
could
I was just gonna say that. You're
like
you're absolutely right.
I feel like the content only matters if the song is not an absolute smash hit. It's like, because if it's an absolute smash hit, I could record it right here in my car and it'll go crazy. It doesn't matter. I don't need a whole production crew.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there is value. I just noticed that the videos that are filmed on a great camera with, editing to the color and all that stuff to make these videos look like they're really high quality. Those videos do better generally than an iPhone video you know and like, so that's what I'm more talking about is like, yeah, they're all not going to go viral just because you filmed it on a $5,000 camera. But if I film in the same exact setting, the same exact song on an iPhone or a $5,000 camera, the $5,000 camera video is going to do better.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and even in that same conversation I was having, it's almost like there's artists out there that you see, like it's almost like they're doing too much, right? It's too in your face, where it's like they don't go away. It's that aren't necessarily in your face all the time. It's like they put something out and it's like, oh, okay, now we care because it's not there all the time.
Yeah, there's like such a it is really in I it's like funny. I think about that a lot, and I feel like it's a very like sort of heady thing that maybe like fans won't think about, but like I think about it because I try to figure out how can I convert, right? How can I convert people from social media to Spotify, Apple Music, whatever, right?
Sure. Yeah.
How do I get the person to like the video and look up the song? And so, I see artists that are doing sort of creative ways to make that happen. And there's an artist, Julia Cole, that I've looked at her videos and I see the captions of the videos are pretty much the same, where she has like a text whatever keyword to this number for the full song. And then she sends like a smart link that has all the different streaming plat. It's genius. It like took a little bit to set up, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna steal that because I bet it works. I know it works. I'm gonna steal that and I'm gonna use it for myself. And and it gets a little like you don't have like the caption doesn't necessarily like steer back to the meaning of the song or whatever, but I guarantee it converts more than being whatever, some sort of caption, traditional caption, right? And so, you know, there's like stuff like that. Uh, I don't even remember what the like original question was, but yeah. Oh, in your face versus whatever. But so like people will know a song like because they've seen it so many times on TikTok or whatever, and it's already played out. By the time the song comes out, I'm already over it because
Yeah.
you've teased this song for 3.5 months. I know every word to it, but I've never streamed it one time, and I don't
Right.
even want to now because I've heard it so many times. So there's this happy medium where, you can't be like mysterious, right? Because like if you're mysterious, people just won't care, like
Right.
who are you? Like, people want somebody to be real and they want somebody to be kind of like always present in like a natural way. But it's when you are teasing a song to get pre-saves or whatever for 12 weeks that I feel like there's like I don't know, there's like a disconnect.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I say it all the time where you see that start to, go quasi viral, and it's like you get just the chorus or the bridge or some sort of hook, and then the song comes out and the rest of the song sucks.
I have noticed that too. I
You know,
have
it's
noticed that.
it's it's crazy. It's like, wow, you had a really good thing here, but the beginning, the middle, and the end just are just
You're like
bad.
waiting for that one part that you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
it is, and like my goal when I got into this whole music thing was like it would be sick to go like viral, right?
Sure.
It'd be awesome. If you go viral too early though, you get thrown on a big stage and you're not ready for it. Or if
Right,
you go
you're
viral
early.
too early, you only got two songs out, you can't even play shows because you don't have enough music, And so there's like all these like sort of parameters to it, but you know, like my goal this whole time was like I want to be doing this until I choose not to. You know, like I want to go. I would love to be, Willie Nelson still putting out music at 90 if he wants to, right? Because he
Right,
clearly
right.
does. It's like that's been the goal. So it's like, my goal is like, how can I build like a real fan base that's going to ride with me, and that maybe, I'm like not the biggest artist. I'm not, on this huge rocket ship, but I've built steadily over the years, and I've built like my like floor continues to move up, like as the streams ebb and flow, my floor continues to move up, and it's like allowed me to make this a like career, and I hope to continue for the next 25, 30 years if I like want to, and so
Yeah,
all this, like obviously we all want to have videos and stuff that pop off, but it's like as long as there's consistent listener base for whatever reason, like that's kind of what I care about.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you're going on tour with Drew and all that, what's do you know what the fall's gonna bring? Do you know what the rest of the year is gonna bring music wise, like for everything building up to, as time goes?
Yeah, no, what's crazy? There's been some team turnover recently, which has sort of left me in kind of no man's land as far as shows go, and so that's kind of tough. So I'm actually in the process of finding a new agent to sort of get some more shows booked. But those I don't know if maybe like the listeners definitely aren't like they don't know how the shows and stuff are booked and how far out, but it's like, if you got a show in September, it was booked in December, of the
Right.
previous year. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like these, like there's like a long lead time, and so I don't really know what the fall's gonna hold. Hopefully I can get out and play some more shows. I've been trying to sort of reframe my mindset a lot, in these last couple of years, because I feel like I got to an unhealthy place of like wanting what I don't have, and so I've been I've been hitting it hard the last couple of years, and this year's been slower. And at first I was like kind of upset about it, but I've got a 3-year old son, and I just got like married, and I was like, I need to be grateful that I get to spend this time with my like family and get to really, soak in the times that matter the most. Cause I've got, buddies of mine that are on the road, like they're gone. I haven't seen some of my really good friends in, 6 months or more, because they're gone all the time. And it's like, and we all, as artists, we all want to be as big as we possibly can be, but at what cost? And so, I've really tried to reframe to be grateful, like grateful for the time I get to spend with my family, even if I'm not getting as many shows as I would have wanted to for, whatever team turnover reasons. And so yeah, I mean, I don't really know where the like fall's headed. I'm so excited for this like summer though, to get out there and play, some shows again. I've got, you know, we got 15, 20 of those dates, which would be awesome. And I think that will sort of give me that like buffer of, okay, I've already got these locked in, so we don't have to worry about that, and then I can sort of really try to find that new, team member to help, move shows forward in the future. But, I just have kind of loved this like year to sort of chilling and being, dad and husband and really
Yeah.
trying to get that like music right. And really like, I feel like I was able to do so much for this record that just came out because that's I've been so home and so present, that I was able to really do some cool things around the like record. And so that's also been like fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen Drew now a couple of times. I saw Drew in a very, very small, intimate setting years ago. And
Yeah.
then before he really started to pop off, and then we saw him last year at Country Calling in Maryland. And dude, you know, I never thought I would want to see him again. Like, and I don't mean that like in a bad way, but like I do. It's not quite, the style of country music we've kind of like gravitated to, but like it's all the same, at the end of the day. As long as the songs are good and the stories are there, like, we're excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and I like feel like it's really easy to support people that are good people. I
Yeah,
feel like I feel like when I go out and see like shows, you can tell if somebody's having a good time, if they're a good person, if they're interacting with fans, if they're whatever. Like I try to be as light and as fun as possible when I'm out on like stage. I try to interact with fans. I try to joke around with people. I try to whatever, right? And it's like I feel like it's really easy to support artists when they're good people. And that's something, when Drew, I've known him for years, and we've played some shows. We've been on the same ticket in the past. We haven't played shows necessarily together, but and I've just run into him in passing a bunch of times. And one of my really good friends has been in his band for like the last like 15 years, and
yeah,
so I've just known him for a while. And when he started to really pop off, and his songs started going up the charts or whatever. It's just so easy to root for him because he's been nothing but a good dude to everybody that he's come across. And that's something that like not a lot of people can say, but the ones that like you can say that about end up really really making it,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. A really good friend of mine was his assistant, I'm not really sure if he's still doing it,
Yeah.
but was his assistant TM last year for sure. And we get to meet up with him when we were in Maryland, and he was like, and because I asked, because I'm, this is how we do the show. It's like, is
Right,
he
right.
really, and these people really like the way they portrayed. He's like, dude, I've been around a lot of people in this industry, and like what you see is what you get. Like
Yeah.
that is a dude that you'd want to have a drink with, and like
Right.
that's really at the end of the day what, how I gauge, a lot of things. It's like, can I have a drink with you, or are you just total,
Right.
not even
Right.
at that level?
No, and like, but then there are like artists that are the complete opposite, and it like ends up coming out and it ends up, and it's like, and I've always wanted to be, that's the one thing. People may not like my music, they may not, whatever, like I don't really care. But one thing they will never say about me is that I wasn't kind. And that's something that I can't like control if you like my songs or not, but I can control if you think I was nice, And so I try to treat everybody, when we go out to shows or whatever with like, I try to be as nice as I possibly can because it's like, we are super lucky to be doing what we're like doing. And I want to be, one of those, I like want to be one of the good guys that people look up to and have nothing but nice things to say. And so, so when I see other artists that are on that same wave of like just being nice to everybody because that's the right thing to do first and foremost.
Yeah,
But like also, there's no like ego. Like that's something that like I mentioned earlier is so hard to do. And the ones that sort of manage that like ego are the ones that people want to see win.
right, right. I'm sure. I've been in this industry now for 5 years, and it's a different side of it than you're on, right? But like I've met some of the nicest and some of the worst people in the entire world. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like for the side of it that I'm on, like you would think people would be like overly nice, where it's like,
Right.
like, and I say it all the time. I say it to like my friends, like in my personal life. I'm like, if I was the person that would want to write a tell-all book, like I would sell millions. Like,
For real.
but like, you don't do that because you're not a douche, right? And
Right,
like,
right,
you start doing things like that, you lose all your credibility too.
right. Yeah. No, I just like, it is so funny because I'll like hear buddies of mine that work with, whoever else, and they're like, dude, this just happened. I'm like, no way, but, but, but yeah, I don't know. I just like, we, it's just, it is not that hard to be nice to people, and I'm like no different than anybody else that is working the door at some of these shows, is mopping the floor, whatever. We're all people on this earth. We just
Yes.
do different jobs.
Yep.
My job is just different than your job. That doesn't mean that I'm better than you. And that's where I
Right.
feel like a lot of people sort of get that twisted, where they're like, I'm the artist, you must serve me. And it's like,
Right.
let's pause here for a second. You sing songs. Let's just pump the brakes. You're not out here,
You're
you're
not
not
curing
out here
cancer.
curing cancer and solving creating world peace. All right. Like, you're singing songs. Let's pump the brake, and it's like, it's I don't know. I could get on my like soapbox, but I think long and short of it is, I've known Drew for years, and I was so happy to see him get that like number one record. And I think it's just because he is such a good dude, and you want to see good dudes like that win. And I'm gonna be honest, he probably got that record to number one because so many people wanted to see him win because he's a good dude. You
Right.
know, because
Right.
that's what it like takes. I don't get songs on Sirius XM. I don't get on the biggest playlist if people don't want to see me succeed because they like me.
Right.
Because there is that piece of it. And there are artists that are selling, that we all know, that are selling 20,000 tickets a night, that don't have a song on the radio because people don't like them on the
Right.
professionally.
Right.
But it isn't because this like songs aren't good. Clearly they are, and it's like, but you need that to a certain level. You need people to like you and want to see you win if you want to succeed or do as well as hope for, and you like dream for. And so, um it seems a little counterintuitive, that artists will come onto your program or whatever, and or whoever you like have on, and treat people poorly, because I'm like, these are the people that kind of determine if you make it or not.
Right. Right. And that's the thing. Like, I agree with you 100%. Like, we don't do this very, flashy and professionally and all that stuff. And I know I've made fans that way, and I've made, I don't want to say enemies, but like, people in the industry will like be like, oh, well, he doesn't have all the best equipment and, doesn't do, blah, blah. And it's like, why? People don't, and like we were talking about earlier, people don't necessarily want to see a polished thing all the time.
Yeah.
Want it to
No.
be natural and authentic and organic and,
And
like,
I feel like that's where Joe Rogan's podcast popped off, and that's like one I listen to every single day. I'm listening to something by
yeah,
by him, probably. And it's like started with like on a little webcam, like just in his like bedroom or something, just like talking with his buddies, and it's like, but the reason why I feel like that like program popped off so much, well, there's like a lot of reasons, but the main one is like, it he doesn't have cuts, he doesn't have like, okay, so reading off of a card, like
right,
questions, like they just
exactly.
talk. They just talk for like
Yep,
3.5 hours, and there's no cuts in the entire thing. And sometimes it gets awkward. Sometimes it gets heated and contentious, and there are things that probably should be cut in a normal thing. But they leave it in, and that's why people love it, because they know that it's real.
right, right.
And it's like,
And
and yeah, I don't
I,
know.
I would, yeah,
I just like think that people crave the like realness in a world of
they
fake.
do.
They crave the like like authentic, the real. And that's why I love podcasts so much, as you could probably tell. I just love to just like dig into all this stuff
Hmm.
that you may see on the like forefront, but don't know how it is. You don't know how it like got there. Yeah, I just think that people crave like realness, and they can see when it's fake. And that's I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about at, like, whatever shows where you can you can just see if somebody's just like going through the motions or if somebody's genuinely like so grateful to be there.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and it's funny you talk about the no cuts. Like we don't edit anything. I don't edit anything out, and a lot of that is time. But at the same time, right? It's not real if you start editing things and like all that. You know, and I tell teams right out the gate, like your artists, they come on, like whatever is said, that's what's going out. Like,
I know.
and
So
if
I'm like trying to think. I'm like, did I say anything stupid? Probably,
but
but
like
that just is what it is.
but like that's right. Like I think there was only one time in the last 5 years I edited a few things out of an episode, and because for you know legal reasons, and their teams came out and was like, "Hey, we need to just like it was like a 5 second offhand comment,
Yeah,
about whatever," and I was like, "All right, that I can." I don't want anybody suing me, suing you, any of that. But
yeah, yeah. Gosh, no,
but
that,
like
yeah,
other than that, it's like if it's not authentic and real, fans, people in general can sniff that out a mile away.
yeah, and it's like that's where I try to be somebody that people, wouldn't mind their kids looking up to, you know, and I want to be, somebody that my kids are proud to look up to, and I just feel like, a lot of people take this like platform, and they're like, oh, I have to speak on whatever social issues, or I have to because I have such a platform, and it's like I've just sort of taken that on. I'm given a platform where some people might care what I say, some people don't, whatever, but I
Hmm.
want them to look up to me for who I am and the principles or morals or whatever. And that sort of, I think, crosses all sort of party lines and whatnot. It's like,
Yeah,
I like want them to, be a fan of my character first, and then,
yeah,
music, um, obviously also, because that's what sort of keeps them around, I guess. But that's just why I love the concept of podcasts, and why I was just like telling, my publicist, I was like, get me on whoever wants to have me, because I don't want to, I'm not like a vlogger. I don't want to get out there and be like, hey guys, today I'm doing this, but I still want to be able to show my personality and who I am in
yeah,
like a more of a native way.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, man. And I can't thank you enough for wanting to come on and do this sort of thing, because it's fun, and it gets and the way we do it gets you to be in a light that is, I say normal, not in like a bad sense, but like a regular, like I said at the beginning, like a regular person, like
Yeah.
we're no different. We just do different things.
That's like so funny because I like need to be better about this. The other day I was like, I was like doing something and I was doing some work around the like house, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw on TikTok live and just show people like, just kind of just talk to people as I'm doing this, because it's like I was putting blades on a ceiling fan, and I had like three of them to do, and I don't know, there was like it was just the most monotonous, like, just, all right, here's another blade, here's another, it's just over and over and over, and I was like, this is so boring, I just want to like entertain myself a bit. And people were like, oh my gosh, you're just so normal. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
what do you
right.
what do you think I do? You think I mean, people literally, people really do think like, oh, he must just write songs every day, record songs every day, and then like film videos like also, I guess, every day. I don't know, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
now I'm like,
exactly what it is.
right, and I'm like, that's so crazy. And I was like, well, I need to do a better job of like letting people know that are fans that like genuinely care, like, you know, I spend 75% of my day doing the most boring dad things of all time, like going to the grocery store and cleaning the house and doing laundry and washing dishes and mowing the lawn. That is more than half of my day every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's nice to see. I think it's for regular everyday people. Like it's nice to see that the people on this side of it that we look up to are that kind of normal.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are things, as, time goes on, I don't have enough time in my day to do all the things I need to do professionally and personally and do some of the like monotonous things. So it's like, like I will clean the house, but then every once in a while I might have somebody come clean it, just to get it like,
Right.
or like I like mow my lawn now, but there was like a period of time where I was like, I literally don't have, I'm on the road like so much that I don't have time. So I'd, maybe have somebody come mow the lawn every, couple of
Right.
weeks. And it's like those things change as as I just get more busy, and it's like, like, man, time versus money. Like, it would take me so long to do whatever. It's kind of just more convenient if somebody else does. But it's like, for the most part, like, I'm doing everything, I'm doing everything. The most boring things on planet Earth I do on a daily basis. And it's so funny that, because I don't, my like wife talks about this a lot. She was like, it's like so funny that like, or not like funny. It's just so different for her because she sees me as dad and as husband. And then when I
Yep.
go to like shows, she's like, it's like still so cool that people like want their photo with you, or that they'll buy a t-shirt, and it is, I like want people to see sort of both like sides, in like a more of a natural way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, I know you're super busy and I can't, we you took an hour with me and I appreciate it
No.
so much. And for everybody that's listening, go check out Chase while he's on tour with Drew and everything else he's doing. Like, it's after this conversation, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I won't bullshit you. Like, when your team came to me, I was like, yeah, Chase Wright, like that's a name, like yada yada yada. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Your style of country music isn't always my favorite, but it's good. It's fun. It's there's a time and a place for it. But like, after talking to you now, like, dude, you've made a fan in me. Now I want to go back and listen to the catalog and be like, oh, now I get it. You know what I mean? A little better, and that's also the show too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's just funny too, because it's like, I my like songs when I first came to town, I was just my like first manager was always like, just make music that you love, and hopefully other people will love it too. And so I didn't really care how it sounded. And I was just like,
Yeah.
if it sounds like EDM, it sounds like EDM. If it sounds like rock song, it sounds like a rock song. If it's whatever. And so it is like funny, because I feel like, but it's so funny how preferences change too, because I'll listen to old songs that I used to love, and I was like, gosh, like, I'm not, I would never sing that now. Um, but no, well, thank you for saying that, and that is like kind of the goal, is like, I want
Yeah.
people to, I like want to connect with people, I want to get to know people, and I want people to get to know me for kind of who I am, and not so much of, like, obviously the music too, because I do put, a lot of like work into it, but yeah, I mean, I like know that, and it's like so funny, because it's like the music that I make is like kind of so much different than what I love to listen to too.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
very weird.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
but hopefully, people will, show up to shows for whatever reason. If they like my personality, if they like my guitar player, if they like my music, I don't really care, as long as they're there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think Drew's coming up here at some point. I'd have to double check and look. But if you're on one of those
Where
shows,
where
we'll
you
have to.
where are you guys at? Sorry,
I'm
I
in. No, it's all right. I'm in Massachusetts.
I don't know if the camera cut off, but I was just looking. I was trying to look at the tour dates. Sorry.
No,
There
it's
we
all
go.
good.
I was like trying to look at tour dates, and I didn't know how this app worked. But where are you at?
We're in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Okay, I don't know. I like would go look, but I think it's gonna cut off
I'll
again.
go.
But
I'll look right now. I'll
yeah,
look while we're talking.
I've been at six strings, and where's that? And it's by Gillette. I've been there a couple of times. I've played there two or three
I
times.
wonder if I've been there while you were there because we do a lot of things with them now.
I opened up for Parmalee in 2023, then came back like 6 months later, did my own ticket, and then I went there in 2024 and played.
Then we might have seen you along the way.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
but
At
yeah,
this point we.
six strings great. I like love that place.
Uh, yeah, because he's Drew's coming to New Hampshire. I don't know if you're on that date.
Let's see.
That's
What's
this that's next weekend, the 23rd.
no, no,
No.
I'm like not no. It's just Cincinnati, South Carolina, Arkansas, Texas, Louisville, Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, South Carolina, Indiana, North Carolina. So yeah, nowhere.
All right. Well, next time then for sure.
No, 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 definitely no. And I'll definitely, if I'm in the area too, I'll like make sure to reach out
Yeah. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
yeah. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some more dates on the books. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? 2026. Actually, what it's 2027 is my year.
it sure is, man. Every year is your year as long as you want it to be.
No, definitely. And I feel like
Things
I've
will work.
No, and like I've really made an effort this year to do things that I have sort of like neglected in the past. When you're touring so much, you can't do things like this. And so I'm like, this year I really want to be mindful of building those connections, building that network, getting on all these different programs and like really trying to branch out in that fashion because I feel like that is just as valuable as playing shows, you know? It's just different. And so that's really what I've been mindful of this year. So I'm grateful to be here, and we got to do it again sometime soon. And hopefully I can get out there in your neck of the woods, and we can
Yeah, man. Yeah,
hang
anytime.
out in person, and you can check out a show or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure the six string powers to be will be watching this, and because I tagged them and everything, so they'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, maybe we'll have them back out.
Yeah, no,
Um,
man. No, yeah, no, love that place. Yeah, we've like played there a couple times now.
all right, man. Well, congratulations on everything. Keep up the good work, and we'll
Man,
see you
appreciate it.
hopefully soon.
Yep,
Anytime.
thank you. Thank you. See
See
you,
ya.
man.
Well, there you have it, everyone. Chase Wright. Chase, thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. Um, and that's it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hopefully you had a great day yesterday, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.